Hello, everyone. And today we are discussing something specific, not general interview questions, but we are exploring some details around epics, user stories, and maybe features. I don't know what all will come during the conversation. We have a professional who is willing to discuss these topics with us. Okay, so let's get started. You may want to tell a little bit background behind these questions, and then we get started with these questions.
Sure, Saket. Thank you very much, first of all, for taking your time. And uh, my question started when I started working as Scrum Master. So
Mm-hmm.
I work in the different organization, and the different organization has their own way of writing the user stories, even though they state that they are in the Agile or they are following the Scrum. But at certain points, when we talk about how the user stories evolve, how the features evolve, how the epic evolve, and what are all the details that you need in that epic or feature to consider or even write the user story. They all had uh, different views on that. Some say that it is just following from like above, like different projects, and
Mm-hmm.
that's what we are using now. And currently, working in one bank, and now my problem is so far we were working writing just the user stories,
Mm-hmm.
and I and now they want to actually migrate or totally transfer into the agile Scrum ceremonies, right? In the
Mm-hmm.
Scrum
Mm-hmm.
methodology.
Mm-hmm.
So we are using Jira platform, and in the
Okay.
Jira platform, we do not have a feature like what we have is only epic and user stories, right?
Okay.
So my product manager came and asked me like when we are talking about the epic, how I should write the user stories,
Mm-hmm.
because I just don't want to write the user stories that confuse. I mean that just only have the business requirements, but it also helped me in evaluating the MVP.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
So I
Okay.
search different platforms such as Jira. I recently I like downloaded the trial version of version one,
Mm-hmm.
which is now digital AI,
Mm-hmm.
and even in those agile platform, I did not find the epic feature and user story.
Okay. Okay.
So the
Okay.
hierarchy. So
Okay.
I needed your help when I
Perfect.
am going to talk to my product owner, how we should consider it in the
Perfect.
tool.
Perfect. Now there are two aspects to it. The one aspect is that do you need three-level hierarchy or just you need a two levels of requirement? That's the one thing. And second aspect is that there is no standard globally. There is nothing like it has to happen in this particular way. You and your product owner and teams need to find a way which is convenient for you. Now, sometime the organization configure their tool by creating three layers in the requirement. Sometimes they configure it just a two layers. What I have seen usually is until unless they are not using scaled agile, the two level works well. So you have something called user story and you have something called epic. That's it. It is more than enough rather than including something in between. So the first decision you need to take is that you need a two levels of details or you need a three levels of details. The three levels of details might be needed when you have different authorities or different responsibility people doing it. Like someone is just responsible till epic level, someone is responsible at feature level, and somebody is responsible for feature onwards. So when you have these kind of division of work or a division of authority of exploration, then these kind of things starts emerging. But assuming you have a one guy and who is the one who is expected to give you the complete details of the requirement, then it is more about how it is convenient, how it is convenient for the person as well as how it is convenient for the team. So first is that any question till here, and I do talk about epics and user story after this.
No, so far I'm good.
Oh, good.
Thank you.
Now, epics and user story, the way it is usually seen in the small or maybe a one or two team development is epic is something which is not yet ready to get allocated in upcoming sprint or iteration. So you might be running 2 week sprints And you cannot give an epic for that sprint because the epic will take multiple sprints to get finished. So it's like this. Today, I am not yet planning of creating detail of this particular requirement. I just want to have a placeholder where I may talk about, and I may talk about that business criteria that, okay, I need to have a business feature, and this is my business requirement. And these are the success criteria of these business requirements, that once this requirement is get met, I am expecting this return out of it. So it is something like primarily written from the justification perspective, from the value perspective of implementing that business requirement, not necessarily having all the details related to how the work will flow, how the user will interact, and how each and every piece of that requirement will get accepted and developed. So it is something like this. I may looking at that I need to have a dashboard in my application so that it can help my stakeholders to know, like in getting an information, what is going on in this particular project, assuming you are making a project management software, yeah, or a product management software. So you want to have a dashboard. Now, when you are talking about this dashboard, that is an epic. Now, you may also talk about that, okay, this dashboard will help us in differentiating from other particular products which are already there in the market. And we want to have a little competitive advantage by providing these things, because we are helping the project manager find ABCD information at very faster pace. And we also integrate this dashboard with other presentation tools like Excel, Word, PowerPoint, and all those things. So this is like you are thinking about that business requirement, that becomes your epic. Now, you wrote this epic primarily to communicate teams that, guys, after few iteration, we need to work on dashboard. And that is something you did it. But now you are approaching towards that iteration where this dashboard has to get started. Now, if the team just keep looking at this epic requirement, they will not get an execution level details when they want to just get started with the development. Now, at this stage, this epic is expected to be disintegrated. It is something like that you have a large thing, now you are breaking into a small chunk, and those small chunks also need to be refined at that level. So we can say the user story level detail is something which you can have a rule. Again, it is not a standard rule, maybe something which is taking less than 5 days to develop. So something like this, 5 to 8 days, maximum 8 days, because your sprint duration will exceed after that. So you identify what is the size limit to it. You also identify the user story should be testable enough. User story should be giving very small slice of business value to the end customer, and it should have an acceptance criteria associated with it. So now the whole thing is 3 months ago, I'm just using like a tentative timelines. 3 months ago, you just had an epic. And after like one and a half months ago, this epic also got user stories. They got little detail. And then you had a further discussion with the teams. And this month, when you want to start working on this, you have that epic got converted into 20 user stories. But now, today, you are starting a new sprint and you have 5 user stories out of those 20, which are well refined. Well refined means they have a sizing which is less than, say, 5 days. They have an acceptance criteria. They have a testability in it. And users, so the developers and the product owner has a common understanding of those 5 requirements. So a large epic got divided into 20 user stories. Out of 20 user stories, 5 users, all 20 user story has a story level statement, but they are coming sometime later. But 5 user stories which are expected to come this iteration, they have a well-defined acceptance criteria. And this is how the progressive elaboration can be also seen, because initially you had a top level requirement, then the second level detail emerged, and then before you are doing development, the final level details are emerging. Yeah. Any question, comment here?
Okay, so in that case, when we have to define them or when we have to explain them with the difference between the epic and feature, how we do that? Because
go ahead.
Sorry. So my question again started from the same thing, that in the tool there is no, I will say, the field where they can say this is feature field, right? So we are currently assuming epic as a feature field. So we are just taking in the common understanding with the team and the product owner that, okay, even though it is epic, since we do not have features, we are going to write the feature field. features under that epic category. But later on, my product owner comes and she says that, you know what, I want the consistencies across like multiple projects, and I'm working in not just your project. I have like three more projects to work on, and in other projects, the team are doing like they are standardizing, writing the user stories. So in the user story, of first few headlines will be for the stating the features, and then they will start the user story title. So I said it is okay, but later on when you have to extract that information in order to create the FSDs, even though we are doing it when we are doing the development or the release, deployment or release. So I said like when you are doing the extracting those information, how you are going to segregate those stating and the features.
Okay,
So
okay,
she
okay,
came to me and she again asked me the same question. Then you tell me how we can
okay.
do that.
Yeah, so now this is a specific to the tool. And as much I understand, if you configure your tool differently, you should be able to create three levels of requirement hierarchy. And most of the tools can be configured and designed in that way. So what you can probably need to do is you need to connect with the particular tool admin who is maintaining the templates, the configuration part of these tools. Technically speaking, all these things are a kind of attribute for them. So they have one thing which is a requirement container, and they have an attributes which help us in organizing those containers. And those attributes need to be defined. We are the one who give them a name called feature, story, or epic. For them, it is just something, yeah, which is an attribute to it. So you need to connect with the people who are responsible for doing that, and they should be able to help you out. And you can give this same situation which you are giving to me, that okay, in a same tool there is another project where they have a three levels of configuration. In my particular initiative I just have a two levels of configuration. Then can you help me to get the three levels of configuration? And that's the step. And once you get a three levels of configuration, the second thing you need to get is you need to have internal rule to define what is called feature, what is called epic, and what is called user story. So that is how the consistency will be there. Usually it will be a little bit linked with the size also. Epic will be the highest, the biggest chunk of requirement. The feature will be the smaller one, and the user story will be the smallest slice which can be delivered in the iteration. So you need to come up with kind of a definition of ready for feature, definition of ready for the user story, so that the team as well as the product owner has a common understanding. So tool thing you need to discuss with your admin of those configuration guide people.
Uh, Thanks, Saket, for. But if I have to ask them about the fields, what are the fields that should be there in the API, in the feature, and in the user story?
Perfect. Yeah. And that is something is very important, because that is something will define what is epic, what is feature, and what is user story. Yeah. So now, again, there is no standard, but there are few things which can help us in knowing it. Now, what is epic? If you are creating three levels of hierarchy, then there is a one definition. If you don't have a three levels of hierarchy, then it's a second definition. Generally speaking, in agile world, epic is anything which doesn't fit into iteration, which doesn't fit into a sprint. Anything, a big requirement which is not executable in a given sprint is an epic. That's a simple definition the general agile word has. But I understand in many structured organizations, they have a template for epic, they have a template for feature, and they have a template for user story. And that template helps you to have a common understanding. As you said, your product owner wants to have a similar understanding when he's working in a one project and he's working in another project. So in those situations, people drive their own templates, but there are some examples. Epic level, you are primarily focusing on business justification. Why should you implement this business requirement? So the epic will give a context of the business requirement that, okay, based on our survey, we have been observing all the customers who are using our product are looking for a dashboard. We have also observed that the other tools which are competitive to us are having some type of dashboard in their application. We feel that if we prepare a dashboard, this whole thing will start, our sale can increase by 20%. And based on our initial estimate, the dashboard preparation time will take around 3 months of effort. So what you are saying here is it is a summary level detail of the complete business requirement, business initiative, which is talking about why are you making it, what is the justification behind taking that thing forward. So you have a business justification. So in a simple word, you can say that there is a business context and there is a business justification. These are the two things there in the epic. Now, what are the other things? The epic will also have something called success criteria. It will not necessarily will have an acceptance criteria. It will have a success criteria. Now, success criteria says this initiative will be considered successful when we see an increase in 20% lead because of our dashboard feature. So that's a success criteria. So this is something which you also define in the epic level. At epic level also, you can have a functional and non-functional high-level requirement. So you may say that if I'm just visualizing an epic template, business context, business justification, success criteria, estimated time and cost association. So you have an estimated benefit and time and cost estimation. So this is the fourth headline. And then you may talk about high-level requirements. Now there it could be a bullet points, like somebody will say, I need to have a dashboard of what all work is pending. I need to have a dashboard of receivable. I need to have a dashboard of payable. So this high level requirement will be a trigger for your future feature in future. And then you will also have a high level non-functional requirement. So it's saying that, okay, this initiative should be secure enough. This initiative should be responsive enough and all those things. So business context, business justification, success criteria, cost benefit and duration related information, high level functional requirement and high level non-functional requirement. So these are the things which are usually associated with epics. In some organizations, they also give a kind of a business context diagram where they show, okay, this is like two, three components are critical for it, and this is how possibly they will work towards it. So epic is more focused on the problem domain and giving a little bit insight of the solution domain. And it may be a 2-page, 3-page content, which might be giving a work for 6 months. Yes, that's kind of a thing. And that may be called epic, which is written and evaluated that, okay, should we really do this particular work in upcoming months? Once the epic gets over, assuming you are maintaining this hierarchy, again, these names are used interchangeably. If you don't use these kind of an epic, you will call your feature epics. Yeah, that is something standard term. Now, what do you do with the feature? Now, the idea here is the epic is giving you a 6 months of work, and the feature might give you a 10, 15 days or 20 days of work as a one unit. That's a kind of a sizing thing. And another thing about feature is it should be understood by various business stakeholders. So people should be easily get it, that what are you doing? What are you developing? What kind of a things can add business value? So all those high level requirements which were there in Epic will come into a feature level. So feature will have a benefit detail that this particular dashboard. So assuming the dashboard was an Epic, now you have a multiple views in the dashboard or multiple section in the dashboard. Each section may become a feature, and each section will have things like, okay, if we have a report about receivable, it will be helping us to achieve this kind of a performance to the end user, and the person will feel benefit, and that's why he will use it and he will be able to pay for more for it. So feature will talk about benefits, expected benefits the feature will give to the end user. The feature will also have an acceptance criteria. So you will see a feature looks like a user story from a outer perspective. It is just that it's of a large size. So it is not that much granular. So feature will talk about what all functional and non-functional acceptance criteria are associated with that particular feature. Sometimes feature may have some other details attached, like you may have a UX, UI related things attached to the feature, that this is how this particular feature will fit inside the product. If you have a mature product, you tend to have those details added at a feature level, that, okay, this is how it will fit into the overall scheme. And a feature might be developed by someone who has a better understanding of the whole product. And okay, any question till here, features and epics?
Yes. So in one way, if we have to say that if we come to feature, does it mean that it gives the value, or in terms of the MVP, can we consider that feature will be MVP for the business stakeholders?
See, if you want to make, usually MVP is also a part of Epic. So you can have a full epic which is at an MVP level, or a part of epic might be meeting your minimum viable product or minimum marketable feature criteria. Each feature not necessarily go there. So if I talk about a dashboard, yeah, so you may have a multiple type of dashboard talking about project performance, dashboard talking about people issues, dashboard talking about impediments, dashboard talking about say retrospectives. So assuming these are the minimum multiple types of dashboard you want to have to manage your development work. So this becomes an epic that, okay, I should be having whenever I log in my project or product management system, I should be able to see where the things are. And I should be able to see for each and every product development which is happening under me. So you gave this requirement, this becomes an epic requirement. Now, when you are talking about a feature, you are particularly talking about each and every slice of it. You might be saying that, okay, I need to have a project performance detail related to my project so that I can see how are we doing against our release milestones. Yeah, so that becomes a particular feature. And when I have a release milestone related features well identified, I can take corrective and preventive actions, and that's why I need to do it. I can also make a adjustment if something is delaying than our initial expectation, and I can also influence people to work on changing in scope once I see a projection related to the release. So, and this feature should be able to tell me where do we stand, and if the trend continues, what is going to happen after 2 months. Yeah. So you explained a particular element of a dashboard which is focusing on releasing, and that became the feature. Yeah. Now this feature, which you also explained all the acceptance criteria. Now what will be the user story? When you start developing this user story, the things starts coming in. Okay, I might be able to see this thing together for multiple projects. I might want to merge multiple projects into it because it's the same program. I might be able to see for one particular project for one particular duration. So I may have a slice of a user story which is saying that I should be able to see it for a given duration. I might be having different mechanism of projecting. There could be a 5 logic of projecting how things will come forward, and I can choose which logic I want to apply. So that kind of a granular details are associated with user story, and the user story element should be small enough so that it gets completed in 4 or 5 days. Yeah, and achieve a small slice of that particular feature requirement. So that's the idea. The whole idea of user story is making it small enough so that it can prioritize and it fits well in your sprints.
Yes, thank you very much. I get it now.
Okay, so that's the whole part of it, and then tools will come at a later stage. Now, if you want to talk a little bit, and especially when you are talking to your product owners and stakeholders, there is a term called invest. Again, it looks like a little bookish concept, but it might be helpful for people to communicate. So invest is a criteria to identify, do we have a ready story for a sprint? So what is invest? It's a small acronym. It says, and a small user story which you are planning to do in an upcoming sprint should be independent. So should be negotiable. So it is not like baseline document. There could be some changes which can happen during the thing. It should be valuable to the end customer. So it's giving small slice of value. Yeah. Then it should be estimated. Yeah. So you should be able to estimate it at in a level. INVEST. So estimated, I think estimated and emergent. So there are 2 E's in it, and then it should be small enough. Yeah. And you need to define what is small, and it should be testable. So you can put these criteria in place, and these criteria will become your kind of a I don't want to use the word checklist, but it is more like an understanding that, okay, it becomes kind of a common understanding between when should we call something user story. So something which is less than of 8 days of work, something which has an acceptance criteria written to it, something which can independently tested and validated, something which adds value to the end user, so he can also recognize something has changed in the software. Now, on the same line, you may create a kind of a definition for features also. where you talk about the feature should be small enough so it fits into a particular planning duration. You may say it should be smaller than 40 days. You can identify a particular number or a particular story point number that it should be smaller than that. It should have an acceptance criteria associated with it. It should have a user who can validate it once it is done. So you can make some kind of these statements, and it should be able to integrate with the existing functionality. And you can say this is something which we'll call feature. In a way, if I use your language, these are the fields of that feature. Epic is little abstract because you don't have very clear-cut things that it is done or not done. It has a success criteria, and Epic will ultimately get disaggregated into feature, and feature will ultimately get disaggregated into user stories, and this is how the whole development will continue.
Thank you very much, Saket. So now I have clear understanding on the fields that I will ask my tool team that they should integrate for my project, and that will help me also to explain it to my product owner. So thank you very much.
Good place to close. Yeah.
Yep. Thank you.
Okay. Nice talking to you. Yeah. Bye.
Same to you. Thanks. Bye-bye.